Trained for wrestling in Dyersburg, Tennessee, with Coco Beware, the Birdman. And then just talked to somebody from Sykeston, Missouri, and I said, well, I kind of started over there in Sykeston and Malden. Myself and Coco and several other guys started over there. A little small building that we wrestled in on Saturday nights. And then I got my first TV matches were in Memphis, and my cousin Jerry the King Lawler, he was there and very popular, and I was not the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. Not according to some people.
According to us, right?
I just started.
According to us, right?
I stole that from Muhammad Ali. I'm the greatest of all time. Because he would always say that. And the more you say something on TV, it's like the My Pillow guy. The more you say how good it is, people think it's really good, and they buy into it. So I guess it worked. I mean, I kept saying it every time. Y'all guys didn't buy My Pillow, did you? I'm not pitching for My Pillow, but it's the same theory. You know, if you just keep saying it over and over and over, and that's what I did. But that was fun. Yeah.
So a lot of people don't realize this. I don't think so. Maybe some of you guys know this. So the Honky Tonk Man, the character itself was actually born in Stampede Wrestling, correct, in Canada?
No, that's where it got the most attention because I took it there. I created this character. I was in Pensacola and Mobile down there, which was my favorite place to wrestle and live. And other than living in Phoenix, I've been trying to run my wife off for 30 years and she won't leave. She's Canadian and she don't want to go back to her home country. Can't blame her, I don't like it up there either. I was trying to figure a way, because I had a good run in Memphis and Nashville with my partner Larry Latham, who was Spot Moondog, who became Spot Moondog. We were the Blonde Bombers, and we did this Tupelo concession stand match and everything. It was very popular with hardcore wrestling. But I needed a change from long blonde hair and doing that, and because it just wasn't like working. Larry and I weren't together anymore, and I had left him and gone to Puerto Rico and spent a year down there fighting for my life every night. Very dangerous place. But, you know, where you guys live? Bells can be dangerous too. But anyway, I was there. I came back from Puerto Rico and then went to Japan and then back to Memphis and did the first family thing there with Jimmy Hart and those guys, then went back to Pensacola and Mobile. But I was at a stalemate in my career where it just wasn't going anywhere. And the blonde hair wasn't going anywhere. It was, you know, it was one of those things like blonde hair. Everybody wrestling's got blonde hair. But I started a match thing with Austin Idol there. And Austin was a big name around Memphis and different places. And he was living down there and wrestling, and the Fullers put us together. And I came up with an idea of a hair dye match, not hair versus hair. Somebody always loses a hair. You know, somebody's gonna get their head shaved. I'm gonna shave your head. Anyway, I came up with the idea of not doing that, but let's have a hair dye match. And every night, the TV promo for it was, back then, I think they still have this stuff. They had spray paint. Like I see the young girls and guys now, I always thought it was spray paint, but it's actually, you have the hair dye now. But it used to, you didn't have the colored hair dye. It was all, you either had black or gray or something. You didn't have the greens and blues. This is all new. But you had spray paint. It was not paint, but it was hair color. You sprayed it. And so I knew that if I took this black hairspray, I tried it, and if I sprayed it in, it would wash out. You could shampoo it out. So that's what we did, and every night we went around and had this hair dye match. There's not room enough for two blondes in this down here in Pensacola and Mobile and Birmingham. One of us is going to come out of here with a different color hair. And I would lose every night. He'd spray paint my hair in the ring, and people loved it because he spray painted me and holding me down. And then I'd shampoo it out, go to the next town, do it again. So then I showed up on TV on Saturday morning in Dothan, Alabama, is where we taped our TV. And I showed up with the black hair. That Friday night, I didn't rinse it out. I kept it, but fixed it. But I washed out and left a nice white spot in the front like an old-time wrestler, Sputnik Monroe. He had this white spot in his hair. And I kept that in there, and but I had sideburns. I'd had sideburns since college. I'd tried beards and stuff, but they didn't work for me, so I did the sideburns. Some wrestling fans out of Birmingham, Alabama saw me on TV. I had my hair then pulled back like this, same style with the white in the front. And they came and measured me in Birmingham on that Monday night. And I said, what are you measuring me for? We're going to do a surprise for you. 2 weeks later, they showed up and had me a gold jumpsuit. And I was going by, there's Tommy Rich in the house. Man, what are you doing? That's my favorite guy, Tommy Rich. I've had a million matches with Tommy Rich. Great guy. I only see him when we do these things. I didn't think I'd see him today. But anyway, they show up with a jumpsuit and asked me if I ever thought about doing an Elvis thing. And I said, no. I mean, that was Bill Dundee was doing that, and not me. And in our business, you didn't really copy anybody that was nearby. And Bill was in Memphis, and I was there, and it was close enough people knew. And I didn't want to do it. And Robert Fuller, the promoter, Robert and Ron Fuller, they said, man, this is great. You know how to play guitar or anything? I said, I don't know anything about a guitar. That's good. The worse you are, the better it'll be. He brings me a guitar, so that's how the guitar got into the whole picture. This character I was creating, I wanted to create a character off this TV show one day at a time. He was Snyder, the maintenance man, and he had a pencil-thin mustache, had his hair black and slicked back and greasy, and he had the wife-beater T-shirt on, you know, and the cut-off, he had the jeans, and like a real slimy character. And I thought this will work perfect down here in Mobile and Pensacola and Dothan and all these southern hillbilly towns, as if I wasn't one. I could identify with them because I was one. And then I said, I need a name for it. And I was driving along from Mobile to Pensacola that Tuesday night, going back into Pensacola, and I heard this song on the radio by Johnny Horton from 1962 or 3. I'm a honky tonk man, and I can't seem to stop. And the words of that song exemplified this character that I wanted to create. This slimy greaseball that hung around honky tonks on the weekend and put money in a jukebox and the neon lights and pretty girls. And so that's how the name came about. It didn't have anything to do with Dwight Yoakam. You guys know him. He did the song years later, but I was a honky tonk man before Dwight Yoakam did. And if he was here, I'd tell him too. Dwight, you didn't do that. I did. And Vince McMahon had the white spot in his hair. They saw him a week or two ago, and Vince stole that from me. I had the white spot before. I took it from Sputnik. I've got pictures of me and Jerry Lawler at a Comic-Con 3 or 4 years ago, and I just out of after COVID we got over that, I let my hair all grow out and then dyed, and it was all white like Santa Claus. And then when I did dye it, I left it part white in the front for about 3 or 4 months. And there's pictures of me with it that way. But anyway, I took this name, Honky Tonk Man. Young wife to be, because I had been in Canada and brought her back down with me. We were in a car wreck in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, with a boy named Ken Lucas, an old-time wrestler from around here. So then I couldn't wrestle anymore because, of course, the lawyers get involved. No, don't work. We're going to sue this guy. We're going to make a lot of money. Yeah, okay, right. So I'm all busted up. He's busted up. And they ended up nothing out of that. Stayed another month down there and settled that, whatever it was, a lawsuit that had nothing to do, and got my medical bills paid. Went back to Canada and took this character there. And that's where it took off. Because Stu Hart liked it, and we ran with it.
So your time in Canada and working for Stu Hart, can you tell us about working for Stu and working Canada? Because, you know, some people have mixed opinions about it. Some people really enjoyed it. Some people hated it. What was your experience? And especially getting this new character off the ground.
I left Pensacola. I had cowboy boots, blue jeans, one sweatshirt, and my leather jacket from college. I had no winter clothes. I left the beach. It took me 2.5 days to get there, 3 days. I crossed the border in Sweetgrass, Montana, and it was 35 below zero and snow up to my waist. And I thought, what have I got myself into? I don't know what was worse, dodging knives and bottles and rocks in Puerto Rico or living in the deep freeze. But Stu gave me a chance to build on this character and do it. And of course, somebody asked me earlier, did I see the Von Erich movie? And I don't watch these Hollywood movies. Anytime Hollywood gets involved in our business, half of it is not true. But Stu had like 10 kids. 8 boys, I think, or 7 boys and 3 girls. And they all sounded like Stu. If you listen to Brett, you know what Stu sounds like. I'm the best there ever was, the best there is, the best there ever will be. And the daughters talk the same way. If you see that Jim Neihart, you tell him, that's Ellie, it was Jim's wife. I called her to find out where to send flowers to Owen's funeral. And she got on the phone, and Jim had left her and was back in Tampa hanging around with some old gals. And I said, Ellie, I'm just trying to find out where to send the flowers. If you see that Jim, you tell him don't ever come back. I don't want to get involved in it. I just want to find out where to send the flowers. But anyway, I had met in Pensacola a few years before I went to Canada. I had met these 2 guys that came to Pensacola out of Tampa. One was named Eddie Leslie. The other one was named Terry Baleo. They went by the Boulder brothers, Terry and Eddie Boulder. Later on, Eddie became Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and Terry Boulder became Terry the Hulk Boulder, Hulk Hogan. Now I had met them, and their car had broken down, their old van, and didn't have a way to travel. They traveled with me and lived in my apartment rent-free. None of us had any money. But I was in Calgary, and Hogan had never seen me. He'd only seen me with the blonde hair. We had worked together in Memphis. When Larry and I were the Blonde Bombers, we'd worked with Eddie and Terry there when they were just starting out. But they came to Calgary for a show, the WWF, and Stu put me on that show. And that's where I met them again, because they were both on the show. Now here I am with the black hair, the sideburns, the jumpsuit, the guitar, and he was like, what the heck happened to you? And he said, why aren't you here with us? And I said, because I don't know. I didn't think I was good enough. He said, you're as good as anybody else around here, and man, you got to get out of this deep freeze. I said, I know, I'm in cold storage. And he said, this guy, Vince McMahon, he loves me. We talk 10 times a day. I'll tell him I saw you, and you guys work it out. Next morning, Vince McMahon calls me. 2 days later, I flew to New York. He hired me that day. A month later, I started Honky Tonk Man in New York. That's how it all started.
You just jumped to my next question, how you ended up in the WWF. But
that's how it started. And then Vince, his idea was little jumpsuits to children, sunglasses, scarves. You're going to be a good guy. I can see marketing, T-shirts and wigs. And I said, no, Vince, I designed this to be a bad guy. It's a slimy, sleazy. People hate this character. No, they're going to love you. 6 weeks later, they didn't love me. They hated me. He finally changed his mind. And from there on, we became the Honky Tonk Man, the dastardly, dirty, bad guy that ended up doing very well, which I knew it would. And that's how that came about.
And the Colonel, Jimmy Hart.
And then we put Jimmy Hart, because Jimmy was there. And I'd worked with Jimmy in Memphis, so he knew me, I knew him. And anytime you can put two guys together that really know each other, that can work together, that understand each other, your work product will show and it'll be better. And our gears clicked right away, and it was a perfect match because he was already there with a megaphone. He already had the music notes on his clothes, and I had these sparkly jumpsuits. So the marriage was a perfect thing, and it worked out very well. And Jimmy and I complemented each other very well. I understood him, he understood me. We both understood how we needed to portray this character and get it to work, and it was perfect. It would not have worked without him. I don't think it would have worked as well. I could have made it work, but it wouldn't have worked as well. And it wouldn't have worked as well with somebody other than Jimmy. It would not have worked with Bobby Heenan. It would not have worked with Lou Albano. It would not have worked for any. Jimmy was the icing on the cake for the character.
He was, he came with Memphis stigma to him anyway. Yeah. And a music background. He's with the Gentrys and all that.
Yeah, and he wrote the song that I have that's popular. It's been done in WWE, and he did a lot for me.
Well, so we go to, first of all, I can't imagine a world where the Honky Tonk Man is a good guy. Could you imagine that?
I am now, yeah.
Well, yeah, now, so we're the WWF, and then we pick up the Intercontinental title from Randy Savage. So Ricky Steamboat, that's right, I'm sorry.
Once again, Hogan got involved, not in any way. Hogan was not instrumental in hiring me, but only recommending or saying, here's a guy that you might take a look at. Because he never got involved in that process of pitching people other than, he pitched Beefcake because they were lifelong friends, childhood friends. I happened to be walking by in a hallway in Buffalo, New York, the afternoon. It was about 3 or 4 o'clock that afternoon, and Steamboat had won the belt from Savage about 4 weeks earlier, but wanted time off to go home to be with his wife and young son. You can't blame him for that. But business is business, and Vince is business. And Hulk and Vince were talking to each other in the hallway, and I went walking by, and Hogan says, what about this guy? And I stopped for a second. Vince says, well, maybe so. And he said, I'll let you guys talk. And then Vince pitched the fact that Steamboat was leaving, and he needed somebody that would run with the title. And would I do it I said, Vince, my deal with you was if you give me an opportunity and I sell tickets, pay me. If I flop and I don't do well, you don't have to fire me. I know when to leave. And he said, okay. If I give you this belt, I need you in the town. I said, I don't want a day off. And I ran as hard as I could after that. Butch Reed was set to get the belt. And he no-showed that night. He was AWOL. He didn't leave Boston. He was still there from the night before, which happens sometimes. Luckily for me, Butch didn't show up. I got the shot at Steamboat, title switches. It was a shock to the wrestling world. Nobody expected it. The fans hated it because they were hating me at the point in time. And the hatred only grew after that night. And that was it. And I took that belt and I ran with it. And I didn't, even when I had a day off, I didn't want a day off. I had spent 12 years or so trying to get to the New York territory. It's like if you're going to play in Texas, you got to have a fiddle in the band. If you're going to play in sports and entertainment, you need to be in Hollywood, you need to be in California or New York. And New York was the place to be. Even the Beverly Hillbillies knew it. Beverly's the place to be. Hills, that is. That's the only place for entertainment and sports and entertainment is in New York or LA. And I'd worked 12 years to get to New York because that's where I wanted to, that's where the big boys played. That's where the main eventers were. That's where all the media came out of. All the pictures in the magazines came from the New York territory mostly. Bruno, Superstar Billy Graham. That's where the action was. That's where the money was. And I got into pro wrestling for money. It's called pro. A lot of people don't understand that. Wrestling fans are funny. They don't care that you know, a football quarterback can make $100 million a year. That's okay. But for wrestling, if you say, I do this for money, oh, you're greedy, you're money hungry. You should do it for the fans. Well, the fans didn't send my daughter to Texas A&M to go to veterinarian school. It cost me about $400,000. But anyway, that's what I did. And then I was in and out of WWE, and Vince and I had our arguments, had our fights. I loved every minute of it. I have a couple of regrets. I could have been a little bit more politically correct with dealing with Vince and not being such a hard behind. But I was old school and I believed that we had to fight for our money. We didn't have contracts. And if the check wasn't what I thought it was, I let Vince know that I thought the check should be more. And he would always say, well, how did you come to that conclusion? And I would say this, this, and this, and he'd say this, this, and this. Sometimes I'd walk, and sometimes he'd tell me to walk. So we had a good relationship when it came to that. But I kept coming back. They'd bring me back for certain things and bring me back. I turned down the Hall of Fame twice. They asked me for the Hall of Fame, and I said, no, I'm booked somewhere else. Well, you can cancel that booking. I said, no, I'm not going to cancel. I don't cancel bookings for you. And then eventually, when the time was right in 2019, they called. I said, yeah, I'll do it this time.
I'm not booked.
The time was right. I mean, yeah, I wasn't booked. Then COVID hit, so I didn't get to reap the rewards of the Hall of Fame. Usually when you get a Hall of Fame, you get a big bump for about 2 years in your bookings. Your price goes up, you make more money, you stay real busy. Then as it fades, everything fades and you become back down here where you started, desolate with no money, sitting in your recliner, watching fake news. Which all of it's fake anyway.
So you said something a while ago about you didn't want any days off. So I think one thing that a lot of people don't really understand, or maybe even really doesn't respect, is especially 80s and early 90s, how much you guys traveled. So I mean, sometimes you work 350 days a year.
Oh, a lot more than that. That was only half.
Wow.
That was a schedule they had 10 years ago. Now they don't even do that. They work 3 or 4 days a month. I don't know.
So how would your what would your schedules look like in those days?
I was living in Calgary when I got hired, And when I got my first booking sheet, I was on for 90 days straight, which was not bad because Iron Sheik, Nikolai, and those guys before me, the month or two, year before I went there, they were doing 120, 130 days straight in a row without a day off. So I did 90. I finished up like in Miami. It took all day to get to Calgary. You get there late that evening. You spend the next day, you wash clothes, your wife wants to go out to dinner, you've been eating out for the last 90 days. You'd like to sit down and have dinner at home, but wife wants to go out. She's been home with a baby. No, so you have to make a compromise. So you spend that day at home, and that night you go for dinner. The next day you're packing to leave again and go back out. And I went back for 85 more. Now my son was born, and I came home after 90 days. He was already crawling. Next time I saw him, he was walking. So I didn't get to see any of that. But anyway, then I was on like an 85-day run each time. And one time I was on 85 days, and I had 1 day off. Sometimes you get 2 days, sometimes 1. Well, you couldn't go home living in Calgary, because Calgary was not a big airport, and you had to connect through Minneapolis or Detroit or Seattle or somewhere, or Montreal or Toronto. You always had to connect. And Calgary's way over there, like, it's a long ways from here. You guys haven't been there. I mean, Montana's a long way from here, and then it's still 200 miles from Montana up there. It's in the middle of nowhere. I had 1 day off after 85 days. It was in not Miami, not Las Vegas, not Los Angeles or San Diego, Des Moines, Iowa. Just because of that, I don't like anything about Iowa now. I'm in the post office, and I live out in this retirement area of Mesa, Arizona. And it's getting to what time? It's for us time-wise. It's September. They'll all be there by October. 300,000 of them from Nebraska, from Indiana, from Illinois, from Iowa. And you go to the post office. It doesn't cost that much to mail a package in Des Moines. Yes, it does. It costs the same no matter where you are in the continental United States. It's a U.S. post office. The postage is just the same, Granny. I used to do a one-man comedy show, and the best things I could pick up was walking around the Walmart, observing, and going to the post office. Because the post office is like, are you kidding me? I told one guy one day when they went cleared out and it was nap time and they were all gone. I said, you're giving these people way too many options. They stand there and they stare at you while you're telling them. Do you want this to go regular mail, certified mail, priority mail, overnight priority? You're talking over these people's head. Don't give them these options. What kind of stamps do you have? Oh, I wanted this kind. I don't care about the stamp. I want to see what's inside the envelope. Okay, well, I was somewhere telling the story, but anyway.
Well,
we're
almost out of time, so I do want to ask
anybody
you.
Have a question?
Yeah.
Let's get these guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's got a question? I'll come to you. Anybody got a question?
All right. Yes, sir. Let's start with this young man. He's been waiting so diligently, so quietly. Yes, sir.
All right. What's your question?
What was your favorite match that you remember?
I used to say the one I made the most money in, but I just told you I get in a lot of trouble from people on the internet who say he's just doing this for money. I would say Hulk Hogan, because every time Hulk dropped that leg on me, I made $10,000. I wish he was here right now to drop that leg on me about 5 times today. Somebody said, are you going over to that wrestling show? If Hogan was there to drop that leg on me for 10 grand, you dadgum right, I'd be there. So I can't say that anymore. Now I say it's the best matches I had was the ones I didn't get hurt in. But I had a lot of good matches, a lot of good runs. I had a good run with Macho Man Randy Savage. It took a while for that to get started because Randy, even though I knew him, he didn't trust me and he didn't trust anybody and he was a little bit temperamental. But when we got the gears clicking, it worked really well. I did pretty good with the Ultimate Warrior, although he did hurt me every night on a nightly basis for about 6 months. But I went to the chiropractor once and I was hurting real bad in my hip. I could drag in my leg and hardly. I called my wife from Minneapolis, call that chiropractor and tell him I'll be make me an appointment in 2 hours. I drug myself off the plane. I went there and I told him how much pain I was in. He said, well, that's the life you chose. You chose a job that has pain. As he's cracking me, oh! But anyway, I had so many good matches and so many bad ones. The bad ones you tend to forget about. The good ones are the ones that you do good, you have fun doing them, and you don't get hurt. But you can get hurt. A lot of times I got hurt trying not to hurt myself or to hurt my opponent. I would twist an ankle, twist a knee, do something that I would get hurt in, and that was terrible. Anyway, yes, sir.
What's your question?
So you mentioned about turning down the Hall of Fame twice for WWE.
Yeah.
What's that process like as far as them reaching out to you and then the 2 times you declined and then finally when you accepted? What's that process like going into the Hall of Fame?
They don't give you a lot of advance notice. When I finally said yes, I had 6 weeks notice. The first time it was like 3 weeks. The second time it was like 4 weeks. Then the third time I had 6 weeks notice, which was good because I was 260 pounds and my jumpsuit was made for a 235 pound guy. And I really wanted to get back, wear that jumpsuit one last time. I know I'll never wear it again. Unless I lose a lot of weight and I'm not going to be buried in it because I'm not going to take up any space and any more ground that needs to be taken up. They gave me 6 weeks notice, and with 6 weeks, I said, yeah, sure. I said, if I can get in the jumpsuit, I'd like to wear the jumpsuit because they like you to have a tuxedo and all that nonsense. They said, sure. And I said, oh, and I'd like to sing my song. Okay. I went on a strict diet that day. I cut back on all the drinking, which was hard to do. And I went on this keto diet, and I lost 30 pounds. But it took the last 2 weeks, I went down to 800 calories a day. Now, I don't know if any of you guys, girls, have been on diets. 800 calories a day is like a
Light breakfast.
tablespoon of this, a teaspoon of that. But I had tried the jumpsuit on 2 weeks before we were ready to leave, and it wouldn't zip. My son said, Dad, you're never going to make it. I said, yes, I am. So I went, and I was on the treadmill every day doing 45 minutes. Not running, but just getting my heart rate up. And the last day before we're leaving, I zipped it, and it zipped up. He was on a patio, and I went outside. And I said, well, he said, dang, Dad, you made it. I said, we're going to New York. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on
And
that.
that's how it happened. And, that was it. And I went there, and they have never, rolled out the red carpet for me because they knew they never had to. They never had to babysit me, and it was all good. And I did it, and they said, would you like to keep our speeches? It's got to be 15 minutes or less. I said, sure, I can do that. Because they were really having problems with people going like hours and hours, and even that night I was there, somebody went, like one of those girls went a long time. It gets boring. I didn't talk about, see, the thing about WWE fans is they really know nothing about what you did in Memphis, what you did in Puerto Rico, what you did in Panama City, what you did in Nashville. They only know WWE, so when I gave my little speech, it was geared around not calling, because they don't want you to mention names. Don't mention Hook, because Hook was on the show that night inducting Beefcake, which I really would like to have told the Hook story, but I told it without using his name, that one of the guys got me, and you don't use Vince's name, so it was all the WWE family, however they called it back then. But I built the little speech around my going to WWE, and then how it became me, and how I developed this character, and how I made it work, and giving them praise to the platform they gave me. Because otherwise, fans don't care that, and I was born in 1953 in a little town called Bolivar, Tennessee. I spent 20 years over there picking and chopping cotton. Then I went to college. Nobody wants to hear that. So I kept it. I did 14 minutes, and then we kicked the song off, did the song, and that was it. Next day, they bring you out to WrestleMania. You go there, you say hello to the crowd, get on the bus, go back to the thing, and the next morning you flew home. Then it was over. It's like it never ever happened. And they haven't called me back. That's the first time they'd called me in 8 years. I was on an 8-year rotation. They had not called me for like 8 years. They called me to go do the Royal Rumble in New Orleans, where Kane hit me over the head, dumped me out. Then they called me 8 years later for the Hall of Fame. Then I turned them down. And 8 years later, then 8 years later. So I'm on an 8-year rotation. This was 2019. So what is 8 years now?
27. 2027.
Okay, in
Yeah.
2027, I might get a call.
Year after next.
Okay, maybe. But see, Vince is gone now, so
We hope so.
I'm not on the 8-year rotation now, so there's all new people there. I don't know.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Somebody get a question?
Did you ever get to meet Elvis?
No.
No.
I knew some of his cousins, because we'd hang around the bars in Memphis when I was in college, and see them there. But no.
Your best Intercontinental run, Intercontinental Championship run.
The one was Savage with Macho Man. It lasted a long time, and it was good. We sold out everywhere we went. Randy, he was a bad guy until he started wrestling me. Then all of a sudden he was the good guy. He was the bad guy when he lost to Ricky Steamboat. He was the bad guy. Then all of a sudden he started wrestling me, and people hated me so much, he was automatically the good guy. We didn't have to do anything to make him the good guy. There was no money invested in this switch. There was no big build-up, nothing. Just all of a sudden, it was the Macho Man and me, and, oh yeah, Honky Tonk Man, you're in the danger zone, yeah. So, I could do all these people. But anyway.
You have my favorite Stu Hart impersonation ever I've ever heard.
Yeah, it was a good long run with Randy, and it worked very well. I don't care where we went, we turned people away. And that's why I got really upset with WWE when they called me in and without any real notice said, we want to switch the belt to Savage on this big Saturday night main event show. 35 million people tuned in. Well, my deal with Vince was I would not lose a match on TV. Lose on a pay-per-view, lose on out here in Jackson, Tennessee, lose in Nashville, lose in Jacksonville, Florida. But I'd go back on TV, I'm still the champion, Mean Gene, I'm the greatest of all time. That's where people hate you, because you're braggadocious. You're Donald Trump. It's the biggest of the best, baby. It's great, it's fabulous. But anyway, when he told me that, I was like, it makes no sense. We're selling out everywhere we're going. Why would you disrupt something like that? It didn't make good business sense. And I refused to do it. I said, nah. The belt will be on my mantle, over my fireplace in Memphis, Vince. It's your belt. If you think you can beat me for it, you can come to Memphis and get it. It's the exact words I told him. And he said, you don't want to play hardball with me, pal. I said, I'm not playing ball with you at all. I'm done. And they changed their mind. But at that point, when you make a power play like that, folks, in any business, like you, young man, if you defy your parents, the wrath will be brought down upon you. And I knew it was coming sooner or later, and he boxed me in with this guy, boom, 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 Ultimate Warrior. I had no way out. And I didn't mind doing it, but it was the painful part, because he hurt me bad every night for 6 months. But that was my payback. And after that, when Vince got what he wanted, and I made this guy a big star, and I didn't say, no, I will not put him over, I'll make him look great, that did not please Vince. He still held that grudge, because he's very vindictive. It is what it is, it's business. And if you're not happy, move on. And that's what I did. Every time I was never happy, I moved on. Then I started booking myself. So every time I make a bad booking, my son or my daughter say, well, Dad, you booked it. You're right, I did. So that's it. That's my life.
All right, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, the Honky Tonk Man.
At 3 o'clock, I will have the Ricky Skaggs, Highway 40 Blues.